Hey everybody, this is Glenn from Brew City Barbecue, and a little bit about me. I'm actually from Kansas City. I've lived in Wisconsin a lot of my life, but I know the barbecue culture very well, and I love it. I actually have 3 smokers here at the house. A fourth one, a propane one, is actually at a buddy's of mine. But it's a hobby, obviously. I've only competed a couple times, but I host a video game podcast I have for about 12 years, and a lot of people keep asking me to film some of the stuff that I smoke. So finally, all the snow is gone here in Wisconsin, and decided to do a Boston butt today, basically pulled pork. So, which is one of the easier things that you can do, and it's a good starter. So I just got the charcoal going. I like to do, so first off, this is a Char-Griller Pro Deluxe grill with the offset firebox, which is more of a Texas thing. But it works fine. It's not just Texas. It's just something you see a lot in Texas. I primarily smoke in the Kansas City style, but I do like to experiment. And I've done Texas brisket. I've done California tri-tip. I've even done some pulled pork from the Carolinas with a lot of vinegar, etc. So there's a few different recipes that people want to see. I figured maybe I'll do some of this stuff and see if you're interested. I personally like to do a bed of charcoal, get it going, and then I'll put some hickory logs in there. I primarily use hickory as my base, and then depending on what I'm making, I'll use like apple and cherry sometimes for pork. I'll use some pecan for like chicken wings, chicken in general, turkey, and I use cherry wood a lot for beef. And I'll definitely be doing a beef brisket after this, actually. That'll be the second thing we're doing. But for right now, this grill, I've had it for years. I actually used to have another one, and it got stolen. Somebody rolled it away. But I will say one thing about this grill. It's good. You have to do a couple modifications to really make it effective, though. And really, the only thing I do is this has a charcoal tray on it, and it's under everything. It's real hot right now, but there's a charcoal tray under there, and it's got kind of a curved bottom, and you can raise and lower it with these 2 little handles here. So let that get hotter. So what I do is I actually flip it over so the curved bottom is on the top, and that kind of acts like a heat baffle to bring the heat more evenly throughout the whole grilling surface. And it seems to work really well. The only thing you got to worry about is here next to the firebox, there's obviously a little bit of a gap. And you don't want to put meat right there because it'll get toasted. So usually when I'm doing meat in here, if it's just like today with the Boston butt, I'm going to do it right in the center. But if you load this up, you got to make sure to rotate some things away from where the heat source is, because this will get really hot. I also have the Char-Griller Acorn, which is sitting right here. It needs a little fixing right now. It just traveled, so a couple of the screws fell out. With the Acorn, I primarily use the Acorn because I just love the thing so much. And but I really love using this one as well. And the reason being is that you've got such a big surface area in this thing, including this top rack, which I'll even throw like a rack of ribs on there. But I've set a whole brisket on top, and it's worked fine. But what we're going to do today is a nice little starter. It's going to be, I think it's an 8-pound, I believe 8-pound. It's called a Boston butt, which is actually not a butt. It's a pork shoulder. It's a part of a pork shoulder, bone in, which if you can do bone in, you want to do it. That'll add a little more flavor to it. A little more traditional, and I always just find that the meat tastes a little bit better with the bone in. And you're going to remove that when you're done, and we'll show you all that. But pretty simple. I've just got the charcoal going. I want to get it up to heat. And then being in Wisconsin, I don't really have a great wood source. So Walmart is where I have to go. And Walmart actually has a lot of good smoking materials, including some hickory logs from Western. And these are flat out just hickory, chopped up hickory. They're awesome. They fit perfectly in this firebox. And I want to get this thing up to heat first. And then I want to put some of the wood in. so that I don't waste the wood. And the one thing about having a side firebox like this, it's not very efficient. You're going to go through a lot of fuel. You're going to go through, I wouldn't say a half a bag of logs for a brisket. Pork butt's going to go a lot quicker. But for a full beef brisket, you're going to go through about a half a bag of these logs if you have a bag like this. But they're great. I just went and picked up a new bag a couple days ago here in the middle of the whole quarantine thing. So I figured why not smoke some stuff. So today for the pork butt, it's primarily going to be hickory. And then I'm also going to do some applewood, which I've got some chunks right here, again from Western. And those are going to go in once I get the meat on. I'm going to put those in the fire. Because what you need to learn is the wood is actually a spice. Treat it like a spice. Treat it like salt and pepper. Treat it like cayenne pepper. Treat it like paprika. Treat it like any other spice. So the wood that you're using is actually a recipe. And that's where the fun comes in with smoking meats. Yeah, I can give you a base, and I will. I'll give you some real basic recipes for like the pork injection that I did today, because I do inject with pork. I don't inject with beef or anything else, or turkey. But the pork injection, I'll give you a base of that, but play with it. Maybe you want it spicier. Maybe you want it with cayenne pepper in it. Maybe you want it with Tabasco in it. Whatever. That's the fun about this. There is no right or wrong way to do this. Now, of course, I'm kind of a purist. I'm a little more scientific about things. You see a lot of competitions where you see these guys like, touching the brisket, and that's going to tell me how done it is. Yeah, I can do that, but meat probes, yo, meat probes. This is a little Bluetooth meat probe I got from Amazon a couple of years ago. It'll go all day on 2 AA batteries and even farther. The software is for the phone. It's Bluetooth, but it's got a great range. This reaches all the way into my house. I have no problems with it at all. The software's a little weird about alarms. Like, it likes to alarm you a lot. But you can set like max temp. You can set minimum temp. So I only have 2 probes today. One's going to be for the grill, and that's basically to know when the fire's dying. When the temperature inside the grill gets too low, I'm going to know it. The other probe is for the pulled pork, the Boston butt. And we're going to go to a very specific temperature. We're going to let it rest, and then we're going to pull it apart. I personally don't like pulling pork. I don't like the process. So I'll try to show you this, but this is a stainless steel bit for a drill made specifically to shred chicken, pulled pork, etc. And I love this thing. I have 2 of them actually. The only thing I'm not going to be able to show you is I actually make my own rubs, but they're all at my parents' house because I have an acorn at my parents' house as well. And I do a lot more smoking there because I'm smoking for more than just me. So I do make my own rub, but today I'm going to use a retail rub. Last time I was in Kansas City, because I have family there, still a lot of friends, I went to the barbecue store, which is out in Olathe by Joe's Barbecue. And I highly recommend it. The place rocks. Love it. So today I picked up, well, I have a bunch of these, but I picked up the Pellet Envy rub, and this is the sweeter rub. And for pork, sweet, it's always nice. So I'm going to use his rub today. I like to go pretty liberal with rub on pork butts. With beef brisket, I don't as much. I'll sprinkle it on turkey, etc. They're all different ways I like to do it. But on pulled pork, I like to do a lot of rubs. So probably going to go through a good portion of this. I'm not going to rub the Boston butt with butt mustard today. A lot of people say to rub it lightly with just yellow mustard, and that is because it doesn't add any flavor. It cooks out, but it helps the rub stick. I don't agree with that. I'll do it every now and then because you get a nicer looking crust and a nicer looking bark. But in my head, to me, that mustard is blocking the smoke from permeating down into the pork more. And for me, pulled pork, I might even over smoke it a little bit personally, because what you're going to get when you're pulling that pork, you're mixing it all up. That's where the flavor's going, is you're actually mixing it all in. You get something that you slice like a brisket. A lot of people talk about a smoke ring, and we'll talk about that later, but it's a little bit different. And again, all personal preference though. If you want to load it up with rub and that's your flavor and the smoke is kind of secondary, go to it. So I'm going to close this up and let her heat up a little bit. I want the grates to get nice and hot. And I'm not able to really say I want this temperature. This is the temperature I'm going to run for my smoker with the side firebox. Because you're literally, it's fire. With the Acorn, I can go 16 hours with just a mound of charcoal and some wood chips and wood chunks. And I can control that either by using the dampers on it, or even better, I've got this great little device from a company called CyberQ that is a little computer, and it actually comes with a fan. The fan goes on the bottom, and the computer controls that fan, and you can actually keep the temperature in the smoker within like 10 degrees either way. It's amazing. That's at my parents' house though, so I can't do that today. But I love this smoker. It's actually pretty cheap. You can get it at like Menards, Lowe's I think has them, Home Depot. I think I saw one at Walmart even. The side firebox is separate. It's actually made to be a little grill on its own if you want to use it that way. So it comes with a little grating inside so that you can actually use it as a little grill. I've never done that. Attaching it's not that big of a deal. It's a few screws. And then I actually got this high heat silicone, almost like a caulking gun. And I sealed very poorly. Sealed around here, and there's a couple holes in there, and I filled those up. It doesn't look pretty, especially the way I did it, but it works. But you're not trying to seal this thing up like an Acorn or a Big Green Egg. Big Green Egg is kind of that nice, big, expensive, and really well-known Acorn style smoker. I've used one. It's nice. I don't think it's worth the cost when you can get a Char-Griller Acorn for like a fifth of the price. Yeah, the Acorns aren't ceramic. They're double-walled steel. Works just as well in my opinion. I can pull some great everything off this Acorn. And the first time I competed, actually, I got People's Choice for my brisket. So who knows? But we're going to let this heat up a little bit and get it up to temp a little bit. Also, never trust the thermometer built into any grill. You might be able to get one and actually replace it and actually set it up so that it's kind of good, but I rely on probes. I'm a lot more scientific in that way. I like watching the probe and seeing where the temp is, and you can kind of tell right away when you're going to have a problem and you need to come out here and put another log on, or you need to come out here and vent it a little bit more. So that's kind of where we are right now. The Boston Butt's in the refrigerator right now. I injected it earlier. I like to let it soak for about an hour, and we'll get that out here. And I'm not trimming the Boston Butt at all. I don't like trimming them. So we're just going to get it out here. I'm going to throw the rub on, and it's going to go on the smoker. And then we wait for the awesomeness. So that's about it for now. Hopefully you're excited for this. All right, so I've got the butt out here, and I put some wood in the fire to get it going. Put about just 3 hickory logs in there for now, and you're going to continually feed it when you've got a side firebox like this. And when I say continually, I'm not talking about like every 10 minutes. Probably every hour or two, you're going to probably have to come out here and put some more on. The one thing is the firebox on this smoker is kind of small. Not really, but kind of small. And one thing I do is you always hear about charcoal baskets that people like to build. My solution was to go to Lowe's, and they've got this vegetable grilling basket for like $10. And it works beautifully. And the reason that you want to put that in there is that it just fits in the firebox, but it raises itself up a little bit. So the air inside there is actually able to circulate all the way around your fire, and you have a lot less chance of it going out. I've never had a fire in the firebox go out, so really like this. So fire's going right now. I'm not going to put any applewood in yet. I'm just going to close this up. And also, if you have one of these, you're going to notice very quickly that the paint on this is going to bubble off right away. It's supposed to be high heat, but it's not. Mine's actually got a little bit of surface rust on it now. No big deal. It doesn't hurt anything. And actually, I kind of like how it looks after a little while. It looks like it's used. So I've got the Boston butt right here. It's been injected. It's been sitting in the fridge for a couple hours. I don't trim my Boston butts at all. I like that fat. I'm going to put it with fat side up when I put it on the smoker. Reason being is that I'm not over direct fire, so I don't have to worry about protecting the meat at all. If you have direct fire, if you're doing something in a regular grill, if you're using an Acorn and it doesn't have a pizza stone in it, then you might want to go fat side down so that it protects things and it doesn't get singed too bad. Because the meat will get singed, it'll get kind of, it can get burned, but it'll get singed, it'll get kind of hard and crusty, and it's not very edible. So, like I said, I'm going to use today, and I've never had this actually, I'm going to use Pellet Envy's rub, and that team's actually from the Kansas City area. I don't know exactly where, but he's supposed to make pretty good rubs. So I'll get this junk off of here. And as you can see also, I put some gloves on. These are literally just nitrile gloves for painting. I got these at Walmart. You can get them at Menards, Lowe's. Go to the painting section. The nice thing about nitrile gloves is, number one, if you're allergic to latex, these aren't latex. You can also get some a little bit thicker. Usually the black ones feel a little bit thicker. And it helps you when you're grabbing some stuff and it's hot. Kind of helps a little bit. So, like I said with my pork butts, I go pretty liberal with the rub. So I'm literally just going to cover this whole thing up, and it's going to be ready to go. It's already wet enough. It was in a bag. You know, it's got all the pig juices in there still. So it's definitely going to be wet enough. But this is way more than I put on anything else, like turkey, beef brisket, chicken wings, etc. Even regular chicken. I don't put nearly as much on there. Just pat it down a little bit. A lot's going to fall off. You're going to learn something very quickly in terms of rubs. You're going to waste a lot. Not a ton, and if you're smart enough about it, you're not going to lose too much, but you're going to lose some. So, get that in there. And get the sides if you can, because this is just flavor. Because when you pull all this pork, all that spice that stays on this without melting off is going to be in that meat mixed in. And it's going to taste awesome. And don't go crazy, especially like if there's crevices. Don't try to fill those crevices all the way up, because then you're just going to get a burst of flavor crystals, we call it. And it can be a little off-putting to some people. So, and you don't have to rub it like you're massaging it or whatever else. Just lightly pat it down. Sorry, I've got some of the smoke's getting in my eyes. And the reason I wear gloves, there's a couple reasons. Number one, if you have any contamination on your hands, it's not going to transfer to the meat. But also, just to keep all the gunk off your hands. And especially when you're dealing with pork and chicken and turkey. It's just cleaner. And you're going to go through a few. You're going to go through a few gloves. I usually keep a couple boxes on hand. Whoop. This rub smells good. Like I said, I do make my own rubs as well. I just don't have all the stuff to make it here at the house. So we'll cover that later. And again, that's my rub. Whatever you do, totally your preference. Totally, completely your preference. If you like a sweeter rub, go with sweeter ingredients. If you like a more savory, a little bit spicier, do that. You might get to the point where you start trying to marry it with other things that you're doing. Like sauces. If you're doing Carolina, then you have some vinegar to deal with, or some apple cider vinegar. Things like that. So, all right, we're pretty good here. Let me just get it on this one end. All right. So like I said, I'm going to go fat side up. And the thinking behind fat side up is that when that fat renders, when you get to the temperature inside the smoker where that fat renders, it's going to soak through the meat and keep it moist. And that actually helps you a lot with pulling it later on, where it just loosens right up and you can just pull it apart. So I'm going to get this on. I'm going to turn my thermometer on, and I've just got 2 probes running today, one for the grill top and one for the meat itself. And then have a beer, have a beverage, have an iced tea. Not that sweet tea craziness like down south, but have an iced tea. That's pretty much it for now. The injection that I used, it's pretty basic. It's got apple juice, salt, sugar. I'm trying this turbinado sugar for the first time, which I honestly don't even know exactly what turbinado sugar is. I think it's that sugar in the raw. And then some water to dilute it a little bit. And then I personally like to use Dr. Pepper. I see a lot of other people use Coca-Cola. I like Dr. Pepper, and it adds kind of a zing to it. It's not, when the pork is done, it's not real noticeable, but it adds kind of a cool little flavor profile to it. And you know, you've got the injection, you've also got the smoke, and you've got the rub all mixed in there, and it turns out really delicious. So I'm gonna get this on. And today, so the Char-Griller uses cast iron for the grills, which I love. It retains heat better. I just love it. But you have to take care of it a little bit more. So since I haven't used this grill for a few months, I'm going to close this up for now. Since I haven't used this grill for a few months, the way I like to season it, because it's easier in my opinion, is to throw a glove on, grab some Crisco, and rub it all over the place. Run a little load of charcoal, and that brings that cast iron just nice and glistening and cleaned up. You know, with cast iron you get that surface rust. Scrape that off. I know a lot of people say don't use the old wire brush or anything anymore, but just be smart about it. Don't just scrape away and then walk away. Look at the grill, make sure that no bristles came loose. But that's about it. So I'm going to get the probes out now. Let me get these gloves off. And I'm going to get the probes. And with the probe for the meat, one thing you got to be sure of is don't touch the bone if you're doing a bone-in pork shoulder, because the bone will actually seem hotter to the probes and it'll throw your whole thing off. So, and if you're interested in what this is, I can throw a link in the comments. Just let me know. So I'm going to turn this bad boy on. Like I said, this actually does 6 probes, but I've only got 2 in today. One for the grill top and one for the meat itself. And the cool thing is where the batteries are. It's got a little built-in stand. Isn't that cute? So, and you don't have to worry about these getting too hot or whatever. It's neat that the probes actually have silicone as like a handle, and they're all color-coded. But the problem is, once they're in the smoker a few times, it just goes black and you can't clean it off. I cleaned these today, and they're just black. So just remember which probe is which, and you can, in the app itself, you can actually assign a name to it. So my probe 1 is the grill, and my probe 2 is the meat. All right, so the probes are going to go in. One's just going to set on the grill itself, and the other one's going to go in the meat. And it's funny, it's only been in here a couple minutes, but it's already sizzling a little bit. Whoo! That's smoky. And the cool thing is the silicone won't melt or anything, so it's totally safe to have in here. And you're just going to you're going to try to get the end of the probe as close to the middle as possible without hitting that bone. So the first time I put that in there, sure enough, I hit the bone. And then just lay that on there. And there we go. So I've already preset the app to look for certain temperatures. Basically, low temperature for the grill. I basically told it if it gets below 120, tell me. And if the meat gets up to, I think I'm going to 185 today. I'll verify that for you guys. But that's basically it. I'm looking for a certain temperature I want to take the pork to. And don't forget that meat this big will kind of keep cooking. And that's what we call resting. We'll get to that at the end of this video. But it'll kind of keep cooking. So I actually take it off a couple of degrees before it hits that target temperature. All right, the wood's going, so I'm going to put one more regular log in. If I can find a good one. Or I'll put a couple of little tiny ones in. Because we want this to go for a few hours before I have to come back out and mess with it. And then I'm going to put the applewood in. And there are even theories, and I kind of agree with this one, to do different woods at different stages. So sometimes you do hickory at first to do a base, and then you might throw the other one in later on, so you get kind of layers of smoke on the meat itself. Whew, the wind is going in the wrong direction today, kids. There we go. And that's it. Now I go inside, crack open a beverage, and go. Also, charcoal. So there's briquettes, and then there's what's called hardwood lump. And I'm actually using hardwood lump today. I'm fine with charcoal normally, but I don't like that it goes through the process where they compress it, and it's just weird in my head. So this hardwood lump is just chunks of wood that they've charred. A lot of people swear by this stuff. I like Royal Oak. Walmart, Menards carry it. It's really easy to get. It's pretty cheap. But I like Royal Oak. The one to stay away from is Cowboy. Cowboy can be really bad. Cowboy, people have found chunks of plywood in it even. I don't know if that's that way anymore. But I tried Cowboy once and it was awful. If you see the big green egg charcoal, it's made by Royal Oak. So it's more expensive and it's the same stuff that's in this bag. So just keep that in mind. Whatever you use, whatever, it's fuel. It's all it is, it's fuel. So we're gonna let this go for a while. It is, let's see what time it is. It's almost noon. Most likely this won't take more than 6 hours. Pork cooks a little bit faster, plus it's only 8 pounds. A good 14, 15 pound brisket, I'll go roughly 10 to 12 hours on it, because I cook very low and slow, that they call it. There's other places that like to go very fast, that Myron Mixon likes to go fast with his brisket. I disagree, but that's it. That's whatever. I disagree, but who cares? Do what you like to do. Find what you like to do. It's a lot of trial and error. I'm still learning, and I've been doing this for years. All right, guys. It's been on for about 3 hours. I put some more wood in once, but I think it's going to need some more soon. So, as you can see, still burning pretty good. But I'll put another log in there. Let's see how it's doing. Woo, it's getting hot. Oh yeah, it's looking good. Nice sizzle going. So not looking too bad. So I don't shift it, I don't flip it, anything like that. I'm just gonna leave it on. Temp is looking really good. Everything's going great so far. So, and there's the neighbor's dog. She actually just took the dogs out for a walk and told me that she could actually smell this a couple blocks away. So that's pretty cool. But there's all the other stuff. I put some maple chips in. I've never tried them before, so we'll try those out. But there's some charcoal starters. Never use lighter fluid. Never, never, never. But there we have it so far. So I'll check back in an hour or so. It's time to check it. Let's take a look at how we're doing. Oh yeah. So this has been on for roughly 6 hours so far. Ooh. And that is looking beautiful. So I'll take this up to about 180, 185. I'll take it off and foil it in an aluminum pan. Usually put it in a cooler, but I'll be putting it in the oven tonight. I won't turn the oven on. I'll just leave it in there to rest for about an hour, and then I'll pull it. So far so good. We're at 178 right now, so it's going to get pulled off probably within an hour. And it's been pretty uneventful. That's why I haven't posted too much today. It's been really uneventful. No heat problems, obviously, because it's nice out. No problems with the meat. I really didn't even see a stall very much, so pretty rare occurrence. Alright folks, we're about 7 to 8 hours in. Temperature is really good. We're about, I'd say 10 degrees away from pulling it off, 9 degrees. I'm going to pull it off at 185. I usually try to stay around 180 to 185. So without further ado, and there you go. So doing really well. Now, there's this notion that a lot of people subscribe to in terms of foiling their meat, be it pulled pork with a Boston butt, be it a brisket. You can also wrap it with butcher paper. There's a lot of different techniques. I've tried doing the foiling before, and usually I would foil it at 160 internal temperature. Obviously I'm past that. I'm at 176 right now. Reason is, a lot of people do that so that they don't over smoke it. I think personally, with pulled pork, it's a little bit tougher to over smoke it because you're pulling it all apart and the smoke's not really getting too deep into the meat. So you're mixing it all together when you're pulling it, and you get that smoky flavor throughout because of what's on the outside. Again, my feelings, everyone's got their own theory, but that's kind of where I'm going. So I'm going to close this up because when you're looking, you're not cooking. So yeah, it'll probably be another hour or so and I'll take it off. I'm going to foil it up in an aluminum pan. I always use a lot of these. I've got the just disposable aluminum pans. They're pretty cheap at Walmart, Target, etc. I like using these a lot because then you don't have to clean it up, because I hate cleaning stuff. And there's already a lot to clean when you're doing this kind of thing. So what I'll do is I'll throw it in one of those pans, cover it with foil, and usually I have a cooler that I call the meat locker, and I let all my meat rest in that big cooler. I've got white towels inside of it, the whole thing, but that's at my parents' house. So when I get it in the pan and foil it, it's going to go and just sit in the oven, and I'm not going to run the oven. I'm just going to put it in the oven because it's insulated essentially. Let that sit for about an hour, and then I'll pull that meat. So yeah, doing pretty good. This has gone really, really well today. Haven't had any heat problems with the grill at all. We've had fluctuations like you would expect. And yeah, it's been really, really good, and it's looking fantastic. So that's kind of where we're at. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. We're losing the sun a little bit, so I'm going to have to turn on the lights soon. Hopefully those lights will do the job. But yeah, turning out pretty good. So that's kind of where we're at. If you guys got any questions, put them in the comments and I can address those in a later video. But until then, hopefully the next time you see this will be me taking it off. All right, we hit temp. We're at 185, and that's the temp I set. So I got an alarm on my phone, so let's do this. Oh my gosh. These probes are also great because they're silicone, so they're actually, you can pick them right up. This looks fantastic. Let me grab a pan here. And it's funny, at my parents' house, one of their neighbors had a garage sale a couple years ago, and they had this humongous novelty spatula, and my parents bought it as a joke, but it's outstanding. It's humongous. And luckily I found this huge burger spatula because I don't like picking up the pork roast or the pork butt like this. I don't like picking it up with gloves usually because they fall apart, or they can fall apart. But yeah, this is looking really good. So, all right, let's get this bad boy off the grill. Move this over. There's that. Oh yeah. And there you have it. So I'm going to let this rest. It's actually kind of late at night already. It's about 8 o'clock. So I'm going to let this rest in the oven. And I'll probably pull this later on. I don't know if I'll pull it on camera just because it's so late. And I don't pull it like a traditional pull. Like I mentioned earlier, I've got this really cool like drill bit thing for the drill, all stainless steel, and basically I've got a stock pot, and once I pull the bone out of that I'll just dump it in the stock pot, and you just go slow and you just chop down on it like, you know, one of those old onion choppers we used to have back in the 80s. And I don't know, I mean, it's pulled away from the bone and it's looking fantastic. But usually the way you know that these are done is that the bone will pull right out. But I want to let it sit for a little while. So there you have it. We'll definitely show you the finished product. I will say that Pellet Envy rub tastes really good. I've, you know, pressed down on it a couple times and gotten to taste it off my fingers. Really good rub. So if you get a chance and you're looking for kind of a retail rub, that Pellet Envy one's pretty darn good so far. So I'll shut everything down here. We'll shut down the vents on the firebox and everything. And it's still going pretty good. Next thing I'll be doing is probably a brisket. I've got one in the fridge right now. So expect a beef brisket next. I know I should probably save the best for last, but my personal favorite thing to make is brisket. It's the thing that I make that I'm most proud of, and it's a Kansas City thing. But yeah, so we'll show you the final product here, and we'll get that all set to go after it rests for about an hour, and so on and so forth. So we'll hit you up in a little bit. All right, so I had one little problem at the very end here. I tried to record video for me pulling the pork and showing the final product, but the problem is the lighting in my kitchen just wasn't very good, even though I tried to set up additional lights, etc. So the best you're going to get is some pictures from my phone, but they turned out really good. I will say this is probably the best pulled pork that I've ever made. One thing that I did this time is when I used that drill bit to, or that big bit that I've been showing to actually shred all the pork, I had a little bit of the injection left over in the fridge, so I dumped some of that in, and I also lightly sprinkled some of the rub in there, and I mixed all that up with my hands, put a couple gloves on and mixed it all up, and that smoky, awesome flavor from not only the smoke, but also from a little bit of the rub and also a little bit more of that injection, just gave it such a great flavor. Still had all that porky goodness, but also all the other stuff mixed in. So my first attempt at doing a video like this, so obviously I'm going to have some technical issues, and luckily there weren't that many. So just got to figure out some lighting outside so that I don't look so dark all the time, and figure out how to actually film the final part of the project, either cutting the meat up or shredding it or whatever. But hopefully you enjoyed this. If you do, please leave a comment. So if you have any questions, if you want me to try something new, like I said, next up is going to be a beef brisket. We actually got about 5-6 inches of snow the day after I recorded this. So I'm waiting for all that to melt and for it to get nicer outside again, so that I can do the brisket. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you'd like I said, leave a comment. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to see maybe different, and also if you have any suggestions for things to smoke. Further down the road, I definitely want to try some chicken wings, show you how to do that. Maybe a California tri-tip, maybe a Texas brisket this time if I can get a hold of some oak. So there's a lot of things to try out and to show you how to do. And I've smoked most of those things in the past. And, maybe there's something new out there to try. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great one. And don't get worried if you attempt something and fail. Barbecue is all about trial and error, and it's your personal preference. So what I say here today is absolutely not the end-all be-all. It's what you enjoy, and that's the most important thing. So thanks much.